There is nothing you need to follow, nothing to figure out, and nowhere you need to go tonight. This is only a quiet place, held gently in the dark, where everything can slow down and where you are allowed simply to rest. You might already feel the day still sitting with you, in your shoulders, in your thoughts, in the way your breathing hasn't quite softened yet. And that's all right. There is no need to change it all at once.
Just let this moment be what it is. Let the world outside continue on without you for a while.
Let everything that asked something of you begin to loosen its hold, little by little, without effort, without resistance. Your breathing can slow on its own. Nothing here needs your attention. Nothing here needs remembering. Even the thoughts that come and go can pass quietly.
Like distant sounds you don't need to turn toward.
You are not behind, you are not late. There is nothing waiting for you at the end of this. Only rest. Only a quiet unfolding of stillness. And as the night settles more deeply around you, you can begin to feel that gentle shift, where the body becomes heavier and the mind begins to soften. And in a moment, very gently, without effort, you find yourself already there, not arriving, not stepping in from anywhere, but simply becoming aware of a place that has been waiting quietly.
As though it had always been holding a space for you.
The night is warm, not heavy, just gently resting against the skin, carrying with it the faint scent of stone that has held the heat of the day, and is now slowly letting it go, little by little, into the open air.
The outlines of an old courtyard begin to take shape.
Not all at once, but softly, as your eyes adjust to the low, steady glow of a single oil lamp, placed somewhere just out of direct sight, its light stretching in quiet, uneven patterns across the ground. The stone beneath you feels smooth, worn by time rather than polished, shaped by countless quiet footsteps that have long since passed, leaving behind only the sense of use, not presence. Nothing here moves with urgency. The air itself seems to pause between moments, as though it has no reason to rush, no destination to reach. You can sense the edges of the courtyard, low walls, carved in places, simple in others, holding space rather than defining it. And beyond them, darkness that does not feel empty, but full, deep, settled. Somewhere nearby, water rests, not flowing, not disturbed, simply held, perhaps in a shallow basin or a stone pool, its surface still enough to catch the faintest shimmer of light, though you do not need to look directly at it to know it is there. The quiet here is not silence. It carries the soft, distant presence of night, a faint echo of something far away, perhaps the suggestion of wind passing through trees, or the memory of sound rather than the sound itself. You do not need to locate it. You do not need to understand it. It simply exists, and then fades, and returns again, without asking anything from you. The lamp continues to glow, steady, patient, its light never harsh, never demanding attention, only offering enough to soften the edges of the dark. And as you remain here, the body begins to settle further, the weight of it gently shifting downward, as though the ground itself is willing to hold more of you, without resistance. Your breathing slows, not because you make it, but because there is nothing here that asks it to be anything else. The courtyard holds you in that stillness. Time does not feel like it is passing, only deepening, and in that deepening, you begin to notice the quiet presence of structure around you, the suggestion of archways leading outward, not calling, not inviting, simply existing as part of the space. One of them rests nearby, its shape defined by shadow more than light, a soft curve of stone, leading into a darker passage, where the glow fades gently rather than ending. There is no need to go there, but you can feel it, the way the space continues slowly, quietly, without change. That sense of continuation becomes familiar, not something to follow, but something that simply exists alongside you. The air cools just slightly, not enough to notice all at once, only enough that over time it feels softer, easier to rest within. The stone walls release the last of the day's warmth, and the night takes its place fully now. The lamp does not flicker. It holds steady, and in that steadiness, everything else seems to settle even more. There are no sudden movements, no interruptions, no shifts that pull you away from this quiet. Only the gentle presence of a place that continues, whether you notice it or not. And as you stay here, without effort, without intention, that nearby archway begins to feel less like something separate, and more like a natural extension of the same stillness. Not a direction, not a path, just a continuation. The courtyard does not end, it simply softens into something else. And you remain at its center, held, unhurried, at rest. You do not begin to move in any deliberate way, and yet the space around you slowly shifts, as though the stillness itself is widening, gently carrying your awareness forward without effort, without direction, simply allowing what was once at the edge of the courtyard to soften into a shaded passage of stone, cool beneath the quiet touch of night, where the glow from the lamp behind you stretches only so far before fading into a deeper, more settled dimness. The courtyard does not feel left behind, it remains with you, not as a place you have exited, but as a warmth that lingers, a memory held in the air. While here the space becomes narrower, more enclosed, and softer in a different way, as though the night has drawn closer, lowering its voice, folding itself into the structure that surrounds you. Beneath you, the stone floor carries the same quiet history, smooth in places, gently uneven in others, shaped by time rather than force, and each subtle variation feels natural, expected, as though nothing here has ever needed to be perfect, only present, only steady, only enduring. Along the wall, pillars rise one after another, evenly spaced, calm and grounded, their surfaces touched with faint carvings that reveal themselves only where the remaining light reaches them. Small curves, softened edges, details that do not ask to be studied, only noticed in passing, and then allowed to fade again into shadow. Between each pillar, darkness gathers, not empty, not uncertain, but full, like a quiet breath held in place, cool and still, carrying no sense of mystery, no sense of anything hidden, only a deeper layer of rest, a darker softness that invites the eyes to relax rather than search. The air here feels slightly cooler than before, touched with the scent of old stone, dry wood, and something faintly fragrant beneath it. Something that has settled into the walls over many nights, perhaps sandalwood, perhaps the lingering trace of jasmine. So subtle that it is not something you smell directly, only something you become aware of as part of the calm itself. Nothing in this corridor interrupts the quiet. Even your presence does not disturb it, because it does not feel like you have entered, only that you have become aware of a space that has always been resting here, unchanged, undisturbed, continuing at its own slow and steady rhythm. Farther ahead, a second lamp rests within a shallow alcove, its flame low and steady, casting a soft amber light that gathers gently around the curve of the wall, revealing just enough, a smooth surface, a small ledge, the faint outline of an object placed there long ago, not shining, not calling attention, simply present, and then slowly returning to shadow. The light does not reach far. It does not need to, because nothing here requires clarity. Everything is already at rest. Your breathing begins to match it, slowing without effort, settling into a rhythm that feels natural, unforced, as though the corridor itself is holding that rhythm, and your body is simply following it. The passage continues with quiet repetition: pillar, shadow, alcove, wall, and then again, pillar, shadow, alcove, each form returning softly, like the steady pattern of breath. And with that repetition comes a sense of ease, because nothing changes abruptly, nothing demands attention. Everything remains consistent, predictable, calm. Above you, the ceiling is mostly unseen, held in darkness, though now and then a beam or edge becomes visible where the lamp's glow reaches upward, and then disappears again, leaving behind only the feeling of height, of shelter, of a space that holds you gently, without enclosing you too tightly. At one point, a wooden door rests within the wall, closed, quiet, its surface worn smooth by time, and there is no curiosity attached to it, no sense that anything lies beyond that needs to be known. It is simply part of the structure, another surface at rest, another piece of stillness within the whole. The corridor bends slightly ahead, not sharply, only enough to soften what lies beyond, and with that bend the light becomes thinner, more diffused, the shadows smoothing into one another, the entire space growing even quieter, as though the night has settled more deeply here. Small niches appear along the wall, some empty, some holding simple objects, a clay vessel, a folded cloth, a shallow bowl, each one resting without importance, without meaning beyond its presence. And in that, there is a quiet comfort, because nothing here needs to be more than it is. That feeling settles into the body. The shoulders drop a little more. The jaw softens. The need to think, to follow, to understand, begins to fade, because nothing here asks for it, nothing here requires it. Somewhere ahead, you begin to sense a change in the air, not by sight, but by feeling, a softness, a slight movement, the faint touch of open space returning, carrying with it the cool scent of leaves, of earth that has released its warmth, of night settling gently over a garden just beyond the walls. You do not need to move toward it, it simply arrives. The corridor breathes differently now, more open, yet still quiet. And through a series of carved openings along one side, the night reveals itself in fragments, dark shapes of plants, layered shadows, the suggestion of depth beyond the structure, not fully seen, not needing to be. A light pattern falls faintly across the floor, created by those openings, soft lines that do not hold their shape for long, only resting gently on the stone before dissolving again into the dimness. Everything remains slow, unchanging, at rest. A length of fabric hangs near one of the openings, shifting just once with the movement of air, a small motion, barely there, and then still again, as though even movement here is softened, reduced to its quietest form. The second lamp is now behind you, its glow remembered more than seen, and ahead the corridor widens slightly, opening toward another space, darker, deeper, more inward, where the light does not reach as easily, and where the stillness feels thicker, more settled, like the quiet center of the night gathered beneath shelter. You do not enter it yet. You pause at the edge, letting the calm reach you first. From within, there is almost no sound at all, only a depth of silence that feels held, supported by walls and beams, softened by the absence of movement. The threshold beneath you is cool, grounding, steady. Behind you the corridor rests in its long, gentle rhythm. Ahead of you the inner space waits, without invitation, without expectation, simply present. And because it asks nothing of you, you are free to remain here, at the meeting point between passage and stillness, between the outer night and something even quieter within, where nothing needs to happen next, and everything is already enough. You remain at the threshold for a moment longer, not deciding, not preparing, simply allowing the stillness ahead to settle around you first, as though the space itself gently meets you where you are, before you move any further into it. And then, without effort, without intention, that deeper quiet begins to feel familiar. Not something separate, not something new, but a continuation of the same calm that has been holding you all along. Only softer now, more inward, more complete. The inner space opens slowly, not in shape, but in awareness. A wide, sheltered room held by stone and shadow, where the air rests more deeply and the night gathers without interruption. A single lamp burns somewhere within, lower than before, its light softer, more contained, not reaching outward, but settling close to where it rests, creating a gentle pool of amber that fades gradually into surrounding darkness. The walls here are less defined, not because they are absent, but because they do not need to stand out. They hold the space quietly, without drawing attention, allowing everything within to remain undisturbed. The floor beneath you feels cooler now, smoother, as though it has been protected from the day's warmth, and carries only the quiet temperature of night, steady and even, without variation. You do not feel the need to look around. There is nothing here that asks to be seen, only something that allows you to rest more deeply within yourself. The air holds a different scent here, softer, more settled, a trace of oil from the lamp, faint wood, and something gentle beneath it, something warm and familiar, like cloth, like time, like the quiet presence of a place that has known stillness for longer than it has known movement. Everything feels closer, not confined, but gathered. The ceiling above is hidden in shadow, though its presence is felt in the way the air does not drift, in the way sound does not travel, in the way each small detail remains contained within this space, soft and near. There are no edges that need to be followed, no shapes that need to be understood, only the sense of being held, completely, without effort. Somewhere within the room, perhaps near the lamp, a low surface rests, simple, unadorned, its outline barely visible, holding nothing of importance, nothing that draws attention, only existing as part of the quiet arrangement of the space. And around it, the darkness remains whole, uninterrupted, calm. The light from the lamp does not flicker. It holds steady, and in that steadiness, everything else settles further. Your breathing slows again, not because you guide it, but because there is nothing here that asks it to remain quick. The body grows heavier, not in discomfort, but in rest, as though each part of it is gently being supported by something beneath the surface, something that does not shift, does not move, does not require anything from you. Even the thoughts that remain begin to soften, spacing themselves farther apart, becoming quieter, less defined, until they feel more like distant impressions than something to hold on to. There is no need to follow them. They pass on their own, like the faintest echoes that do not linger. The room does not change. It does not introduce anything new. It simply continues. And in that continuation, the mind begins to understand that nothing is expected of it. Nothing needs to be remembered. Nothing needs to be completed. There is no next step waiting. Only this. Only the quiet presence of a space that remains exactly as it is. A slight movement of air touches the edge of the room, so faint it is almost not there. Perhaps from an opening somewhere beyond sight. Perhaps from a passage that connects this space to another. But it does not disturb anything. It only passes, gently, and then settles again. The lamp continues to burn, low, steady, patient, its light never reaching too far, never fading too quickly, always remaining just enough. And in that balance, everything else feels complete. The walls hold the quiet, the floor holds your weight, the air holds its stillness, and you are simply part of it, not separate, not observing, only present. There is no sense of time passing here, no awareness of moments moving forward, only a deepening, a soft layering of stillness that continues to settle more fully around you. Even the idea of moving further begins to fade because there is nowhere else that needs to be reached. This space is enough, more than enough. It asks nothing, gives everything, without effort, without change. The darkness is no longer something that surrounds you. It feels like something that holds you, softly, completely, and the light within it, small, steady, warm, remains constant, not guiding, not leading, only existing as a quiet center around which everything else rests. The body continues to soften, letting go of small tensions you did not notice before. The shoulders settle, the face relaxes, the breath becomes slower still, until it feels like it belongs entirely to this place, and nothing outside of it remains. There is no outside, only this room, this quiet, this steady presence of night. The longer you remain here, the less there is to notice, because everything has already been noticed, and everything has already settled. The need to observe fades, the need to understand disappears, leaving only a quiet awareness that gently softens and softens until even that begins to drift, like the last trace of light at the edge of a lamp. The space remains unchanged, perfectly still, perfectly calm, and you remain within it, without effort, without thought. Nothing asks you to move on from here, and so you do not. You simply remain within the quiet center of that sheltered room, where the lamp burns low, and the night seems to have gathered itself into its gentlest form. No longer stretched across courtyards or resting along corridors, but folded inward now, softened, contained, and entirely at peace. The stillness has become so complete that it no longer feels like something around you. It feels like something within you, as though the silence of the room and the silence inside your own body have slowly come to rest in the same place, without effort, without any moment of change, only by degrees, only by the soft passing of one quiet breath into the next. The lamp remains steady, its light warm and low and patient, never demanding to be seen, never reaching further than it needs to. And because of that, the room continues to feel undisturbed, the shadows whole, the air unbroken, every surface held in a dim calm that asks for nothing and gives nothing back except permission to rest more deeply. Even the walls seem quieter now, as though their presence has softened, as though stone itself can grow more gentle in the late hours of the night. And whatever shape the room once had becomes less important with every breath, because there is no need to hold its outline anymore. No need to picture where one wall ends and another begins. No need to keep the space clear in the mind. It is enough to feel that it is there, steady, sheltering, still. The floor beneath you holds the same quiet coolness, but even that begins to drift from attention, because the body no longer needs to notice every small thing. It has already found safety here, already found rest, and now it can begin to let go of the habit of watching, the habit of waiting, the habit of staying slightly alert for what comes next. There is no next thing here. Nothing arrives, nothing changes, nothing asks for you to stay ready. And because of that, the body begins to understand that it can release even more, a slow unwinding that happens on its own. The shoulders settling lower than before, the hands losing their last trace of effort, the face softening, the breath turning so easy that it almost no longer feels like something you are doing, only something that is happening quietly, naturally, like the steady burning of the lamp, like the still air inside the room. Thoughts may still appear, but now they have very little weight. They come with softened edges. They drift through half-formed, and before they can settle, before they can become anything that needs attention, they seem to dissolve back into the dark, not pushed away, not silenced, simply allowed to thin out on their own, like faint ripples disappearing on water that has returned to stillness. There is nothing here to hold them in place, nothing to keep the mind bright and awake. Only this dim room, this steady low flame, this soft gathering of shadow and quiet that makes every thought less necessary than the one before it. The air carries the faintest warmth from the lamp, and beneath that, a coolness that belongs to stone, and beneath even that, something harder to name, the feeling of night itself, deep, settled, almost endless, not large in the way of open sky, but deep in another way, deep like sleep, deep like calm that has no bottom, calm that does not need to expand because it already fills everything. And within that depth, the room seems to grow simpler. There is the lamp, there is the dark, there is the quiet weight of rest. And then, even those begin to loosen in the mind, becoming less like separate things and more like one soft presence, one continuous field of stillness in which nothing stands apart from anything else. The room no longer needs detail, the light no longer needs a source, the stillness no longer needs a place. Everything begins to blur into the same gentle condition of rest. A tiny movement of air may touch the room once, so slight it is barely felt, the kind of movement that does not disturb the flame, does not shift the shadows, only passes through and is gone. And even that small passing seems to make the silence deeper afterward, as though the room gathers itself more completely again once it has settled. Far away, somewhere beyond walls, beyond the slow dark of corridors, beyond the courtyard stones that released the day's warmth long ago, the outer world may still exist, but it has no weight here, no voice here, no claim upon you here. It feels distant in a way that is gentle, not cut off, only softened beyond importance, left to continue without reaching into this room, without asking anything of this moment. Here, there is no outside pressure, no task waiting at the edge of thought, no unfinished thing reaching back toward you, no reason to gather yourself up again. Everything can remain loose now. Everything can remain surrendered. The lamp continues and continues and continues with the same quiet steadiness, and the simple repetition of that steadiness begins to take on the softness of a lullaby, not a song, not a sound, only a repetition so calm that the mind begins to drift with it. One quiet moment, then another, each one indistinguishable from the last, each one drawing you further away from wakefulness and deeper into ease. Nothing in this room tries to keep your attention. That is why it becomes so easy to let attention go, to stop following the shape of your own thoughts, to stop listening for small sounds, to stop looking inward for whether sleep is near. Because sleep does not need to be searched for here. It can come quietly, the same way the darkness gathered, the same way the air settled, the same way the body softened without being told. Little by little, without announcement, without any clear dividing line, the breath becomes slower still, and then softer, and then somehow farther away, not gone, only no longer needing to be noticed, as though the body has taken over fully now, carrying you somewhere quieter than thought, somewhere lower and gentler, where nothing needs naming. The lamp remains low, the room remains dim, the darkness remains warm rather than empty, and all of it seems to say the same thing without words, that nothing more is required, that nothing more will happen, that the night has already given you everything it needed to give. There is no need to stay with the image of the room now, no need to hold on to the lamp, no need to picture the walls, or the floor, or the air. All of it can soften, all of it can fade. The room has done enough. It has held you long enough for the mind to stop reaching, long enough for the body to feel safe, long enough for wakefulness to loosen its grip. And now even the room itself can begin to drift into something less defined, less visual, less clear, becoming only a feeling, only a softness, only a sense of being held in darkness that is calm and warm and unbroken. Perhaps the lamp is still there, perhaps the shadows still rest against the walls, perhaps the night remains gathered beneath the roof just as it was. But you do not need to keep any of it clear now. You do not need to remain at the surface of it. You can let the details go, let the shapes go, let the last small traces of effort go. There is nothing to preserve, nothing to remember in the morning, nothing hidden here that will be lost if you stop paying attention. Everything important has already happened, and what happened was only this, that you were allowed to rest, that you were allowed to become quiet, that you were allowed to feel held by a place that asked nothing from you. And that permission remains, steady as the lamp, soft as the dark, patient as the night. You can drift now, further than the room, further than the thought of the room, further than the last awareness of breath or shadow or warmth, into a deeper softness where even stillness no longer needs to be noticed, where the mind no longer keeps watch, where the body no longer waits, where everything loosens and loosens and loosens until there is only rest, only darkness without edge, only the faint sense of warmth holding on for a moment longer. And then even that becomes lighter, more distant, more soft, like the last small glow behind closed eyes, like the final trace of a lamp seen through sleep, until nothing needs to be followed at all, nothing needs to be held, nothing needs to remain, only rest, only quiet, only sleep.